Imagine waking up 40,000 years ago. No alarm clock, no wedding rings, no relationship status, no awkward in-laws asking when you're having kids. You stretch beside a fire, wrapped in animal fur that definitely hasn't been washed. Ever. Someone nearby is snoring like a dying mammoth. A child is trying to eat a stick. Another person is arguing with a squirrel. And somehow, humanity survives. But here's the weird part. For most of human history, marriage didn't exist the way we know it today. No giant ceremonies, no legal contracts, no matching Instagram captions saying, "Found my forever." So what exactly were relationships like before marriage? Did people just wander around flirting with everyone? Did ancient couples stay together? Who raised the kids? And who invented the terrifying idea of meeting your partner's parents? Today, we're traveling deep into prehistory to uncover what ancient humans actually did before marriage became a thing. And honestly, some parts sound incredibly chaotic. Some parts sound surprisingly modern. And some parts make modern dating apps look completely ridiculous. Before husband and wife, for most of early human existence, humans lived in small hunter-gatherer groups, usually around 20 to 50 people. That was your entire world. No cities, no governments, no office jobs, no guy named Dave sending emails marked urgent. Just survival. Every day revolved around three major goals. Find food, avoid dying. Try not to embarrass yourself in front of the tribe. Now here's the interesting thing. Anthropologists believe early humans probably formed relationships naturally, without formal marriage systems. In other words, people paired up because they liked each other, worked well together, or found each other attractive. Not because a priest held a ceremony beside decorative flowers. And honestly, that makes sense. When you spend all day hunting giant animals together, romance becomes a little different. Forget candlelit dinners. Nothing says I love you like, I fought a wild boar for you and only got mildly stabbed. So, were people just randomly dating? Not exactly. Ancient humans weren't running around like a prehistoric reality TV show. Most researchers believe long-term pair bonding existed very early in human history. Why? Because human babies are incredibly difficult. Seriously. A baby deer stands up after a few minutes. Human babies, they can barely control their own necks. For years, raising children required teamwork. That meant many couples likely stayed together for practical reasons: protection, food sharing, childcare, and emotional connection. So even without formal marriage, many ancient humans probably had stable partnerships. Basically, marriage didn't exist yet, but relationships definitely did. And unlike modern relationships, ancient couples didn't argue over things like, "Why did you like your ex's photo?" They had more important concerns, like, "Did you accidentally attract wolves again?" The real daily life of ancient couples. So what did their actual day look like? Well, nobody woke up and said, "I can't wait for my 9 a.m. meeting." Ancient life was physical from sunrise to sunset. Men and women both contributed heavily to survival, although roles often varied between groups. A typical day might include gathering food. Contrary to old stereotypes, gathering plants was incredibly important. In many hunter-gatherer societies, gathered food provided most daily calories, which means ancient humans weren't surviving entirely on dramatic mammoth hunts. A lot of dinner came from berries, roots, nuts, and edible plants. Basically, humanity survived because someone looked at a random mushroom and said, "You know what? Worth the risk." Hunting was dangerous, exhausting, and extremely uncertain. People could spend days tracking animals only to fail completely. Imagine burning thousands of calories chasing dinner, just to come home empty-handed while someone else found berries in 2 hours. That had to be humbling. And yes, cooperation mattered. Groups that trusted each other survived better, which means emotional bonds became extremely important long before marriage contracts existed. Childcare. Children weren't raised by isolated parents the way many families operate today. Childcare was often shared across the group. Grandparents, siblings, cousins, and unrelated adults all helped. It was more like a community effort, which honestly explains why ancient parents probably had fewer mental breakdowns than modern parents trying to assemble a stroller using instructions written by demons. Jealousy, drama, and prehistoric relationships. Now let's address the obvious question. Did ancient humans get jealous? Absolutely. Humans are still humans. Love triangles probably existed long before language became sophisticated. Imagine two cavemen staring at each other aggressively because one shared extra roasted rabbit with someone else. That's basically prehistoric flirting drama. Anthropologists believe emotions like attachment, jealousy, affection, and heartbreak are ancient evolutionary traits, which means somewhere in human history there was probably a caveman sitting dramatically beside a fire thinking, "She said she needed space," then immediately joined another hunting group. Some things never change. When did marriage actually appear? Here's where things get interesting. When did marriage actually appear? Here's where things get interesting. Marriage became much more formal after humans developed agriculture around 10,000 years ago. Why? Because farming changed everything. Suddenly, humans weren't just carrying possessions. They owned land, animals, crops, homes, resources, and once property existed, people became very interested in inheritance. That's when relationships stopped being only emotional or social and became economic. Marriage started functioning as a way to organize families, property, alliances, and children. Basically, ancient humans invented paperwork for love, a truly dangerous moment in history. Before marriage, human relationships were flexible. Different ancient cultures handled relationships differently. Some groups likely preferred long-term monogamous bonds. Others may have had looser social systems. Human behavior has never been one size fits all. And honestly, that's still true today. But what's fascinating is this. Even before formal marriage, humans still formed emotional connections. People still loved, still argued, still protected each other, still got heartbroken, because those emotions are older than civilization itself, older than writing, older than cities, older than money. Love existed before laws did. That's kind of incredible. The most relatable thing about ancient humans, we often imagine ancient people as completely different from us. But they weren't. They laughed, got nervous, felt attraction, felt loneliness, wanted companionship. Archaeologists have found evidence that prehistoric humans cared for injured group members for years. Think about that. In a brutal survival environment, people still chose compassion. That means emotional connection wasn't some modern invention. It helped humanity survive, which also means somewhere in prehistory, someone absolutely tried to impress a crush and failed spectacularly. Maybe he tripped while carrying firewood. Maybe she accidentally burned dinner. Maybe someone confidently painted a buffalo on a cave wall and everyone pretended to like it. Human awkwardness is eternal. What Romans probably looked like, so how did romance actually happen? Well, probably much simpler than today. No texting games. No. Seen at 8:42 p.m. No dating profile saying, "I love adventures and tacos." People spent enormous amounts of time together naturally. They worked together daily, walked together, shared food, told stories beside fires. Connection grew from constant interaction, not from carefully edited photos and mysterious one-word replies. In some ways, ancient relationships may have felt more direct. You knew immediately whether someone was useful, kind, selfish, brave, lazy, or trustworthy. Mostly because survival exposed your personality very quickly. It's hard to fake confidence when a goat is chasing you downhill. Did people fall in love? Most likely, yes. Scientists studying human biology believe romantic attachment has deep evolutionary roots. Chemicals like dopamine and oxytocin influence bonding even today. Those systems didn't suddenly appear after wedding ceremonies were invented. Humans likely experienced attraction and emotional attachment for tens of thousands of years. So somewhere beneath the stars, beside ancient fires, people probably held hands, shared stories, and felt exactly what humans feel now. Excitement, fear, hope. That's strangely beautiful. Even separated by thousands of years, people were still people. The funny side of prehistoric relationships. But let's be honest, ancient dating probably had some major downsides. Bad hygiene, for starters. Imagine trying to flirt while smelling like smoke, mud, and frightened animal. Also, zero privacy. Your entire tribe lived nearby. Every argument probably became public immediately. Oh look, Grug and Luma are fighting again near the fire pit. And breakups? Terrible. You couldn't just unfollow someone. You still had to see them every day while collecting berries. Awkward. Why marriage lasted so long? Once agriculture and civilization grew, marriage became deeply connected to stability. It helped organize inheritance, labor, alliances, and social order. Over time, religions and governments formalized it even more. Eventually, marriage became one of humanity's biggest institutions. But underneath all the ceremonies and legal systems, the original human desires stayed the same: companionship, trust, family, connection, and survival. The packaging changed. Human emotions didn't. So, what did ancient humans do before marriage existed? They survived together. They hunted, gathered food, raised children, shared stories around fires, fell in love, got jealous, protected each other, argued over ridiculous things. In other words, they acted surprisingly human. Marriage came later, but connection is ancient, long before churches, before governments, before rings and vows. There were already two humans somewhere sitting beside a fire, laughing at something stupid while trying to survive another day together. And honestly, that might be the oldest love story of all. If you enjoyed this journey into prehistoric human life, subscribe for more deep dives into the strange, funny, and surprisingly relatable history of humanity. Because the more we learn about ancient humans, the more we realize they were basically us, just with worse dental care and significantly more mammoths.